Let's go right to the work study format. We have 2 items. We have a report on each of them from the administrator. And I would call our attention to number 1, which is the discussion of the lot coverage maximum changes to the ordinance. This is we have this under new business, and Ms. Stout has presented something to us as a reaction to a document or an actual ordinance from the village council. Is everybody with me here? Under tab yellow, we have the revised ordinance proposed by the council. They've asked us to react.
Mr. Chair, I did have a comment. So this ordinance that you're seeing under my comment is what I received. But at the last council meeting, Councilor Murray reminded me that he wanted this commission to look at 20% lot coverage, as low as 20% lot coverage.
Is this a proposed by the whole council or proposed and it's sitting there waiting to be discussed or pass? It didn't pass, right?
Correct. They are waiting for your input, and it was proposed by one counselor. The other counselors said, yes, let's have Planning and Zoning Commission look at this. And then in the meantime, that same counselor said, I would like them to look at 20% lot coverage.
But right now we have 35. The council said, well, if you want to ask Planning and Zoning, ask them to look at 25. And then there's an aside that says, oh, look at 20.
Correct.
Okay.
May I?
Commissioner, please.
Yeah, Mr. Commissioner, 3 times now that this has come. The first time it was sent back because it didn't come under the normal process, as I recall. It was just one commissioner sent it over here for us to pass judgment on. Normally, the routine was that the whole council would have voted to send it, the whole council, not just one person.
They did finally do that.
They did finally do that for us to look at it. And then I recall that we came up with some options that said, this is such a complicated issue. And it's not just quasi-judicial, it's a substantive change after the comprehensive plan has been worked on for a year. A little late, but.
Well, the comprehensive plan did say, oh, you could look at it.
Like up to.
Up to. Well, my suggestion is that this would be the perfect opportunity for a work study. This has insurance implications. I'd like to hear from mortgage bankers. I want to know what, you know.
Have anybody here who wants to talk about this tonight?
Oh.
That was because, Commissioner, you said you wanted to hear from people.
All right.
So,
All right. Well,
It is advertised as a work study tonight.
okay.
We are in work study.
All right. Well, that's wonderful because I sure need to be educated on this thing.
I think rather than us talk, we'd like to hear from interested people. And we would ask that you come up. Do you have an order?
I do.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, first up is Gary Bennett.
Thank you for coming and thank you for being patient tonight. I know you enjoyed seeing the commission in action.
My pleasure. I had the opportunity to leave another meeting to come to this meeting. So it's my night. I don't believe I have to be sworn in or doing.
We'd like to, you don't have to be sworn in, but we'd like you to tell us your name and
Sure.
Address or indication for the record.
Sure. Thank you. My name is Gary Bennett. I reside at 792 West Meadowlark here in Corrales. I've been a resident in Corrales since 1982, so I think that's about 43 years or something of that nature.
Something like that.
I'm born and raised in New Mexico, rural New Mexico, and lived in Albuquerque on the west side since 1974. So I'm used to rural living and living alone and not having people next to me and all these things. But I will say that it does concern me, the idea of taking the usage or available usage of your land and arbitrarily making a decision because you think somebody else's house is too big to lower the square footage that you might be able to have, especially in the way I understand it's being done based upon impervious area. There's nothing in that thing that says you don't go up to 2-story, which still gets you square footage, but it doesn't do anything to change McMansions. Is that the word I heard? Personally, I believe that every person has a right to build a home. I believe every person has a right to build a small home, a medium home, or a large home. We have encroachment rules and regulations within the zoning that tells you how close a residence may be to the backyard, the side yard, the front yard for those setbacks. I believe those have been proven for decades. I built my first house here personally when I was a young man in 1989. I built 3 or 4 more houses in here for my own use over the course of the time. And I'm happy that I was able to increase the size of my homes over time. And what I feel is good for me doesn't necessarily mean it's good for another neighbor. They may want a bigger house or they may want a smaller house, but I certainly don't want to dictate the size of their home. I'd rather see concerns about height, which we have a restriction that says we can't go over 26 feet. I'd rather be concerned with color so that it kind of blends in with the natural landscape of things. I wouldn't like to see other things that don't. I think there's a lot of things that have a lot more practical value than looking about somebody's lot coverage. Somebody may want a barn. Somebody may have a wood shop that they like to practice their hobby in. Somebody else might want to build a basketball court for their kids. I mean, I think it's just intrusive and limiting of what a homeowner or property owner can do with their property. As you know, the values of Village of Corrales property have increased. When I personally built my own home, I paid $40,000 an acre for it. Some land I bought paid $20,000 an acre for, and now lots are selling for $400,000. And I would hate to see somebody denied the opportunity to economically grow their life savings arbitrarily because somebody thinks somebody's house is too big. So I'm as concerned about all the other things as anybody else is. I've been here again for 43 years. I just think this is a bad thought, and I don't know what problem we're trying to solve or what question is trying to be answered, but this doesn't seem to go anywhere. So I would ask the commission, before you take action on something like this, what really are we trying to solve? I don't see that someone having a basketball court and exceeding a limit because they have 4 kids or 5 kids and it's 5,000 square feet with a porch and a driveway and a horse barn. I don't think we have any business doing that. We already have the rules in place for 35%. I understand how that works. And it seems perfectly fine to me. So thank you for listening.
In work study, we're going to have opportunity if somebody wants to ask a question. Otherwise, we'll
Happy to stick with
Mayor.
it.
Does your opinion change depending on the size of the lot? So if I have 3/4 of an acre versus 1 acre versus 2 acres, does the percentage of coverage change in your mind?
Well, obviously, I believe that the buildable lot size, the smaller lot you go, the more you're going to encroach on everything, no matter what. I have built on 1/4 acre lots in Corrales many, many years ago that were grandfathered in with the way we had to do the septics and fix all that kind of stuff. And you got really close lot lines on every direction, but that was still only like a 2,500 square foot house. So obviously the smaller lot that you have, the more intrusive it's going to be. And no, I don't think I would limit someone who has 2 acres to say that they can only comply with the square footage coverage of what 1 acre would do. That's like 15,000 square feet, I understand, if I did my math right, 35% on 43,560 square feet. So I don't know that I would be in favor of limiting coverage size simply because you have a bigger lot. I think it sort of kind of covers itself.
Or a smaller lot.
Or smaller lot. I think you're gonna run into an encroachment problem when you have a small lot and you're trying to do a 2 or 3 bedroom house. So it just is what it is.
Is it your understanding that if we limited it to a certain amount of lot space on the acre or 3/4, whatever you're doing, that it wouldn't restrict the building from going up? In other words, now we got a view obstruction problem rather than just.
Right, so again, it goes back to the question of what problem are we trying to solve or what question's actually being asked? And I wasn't clear from my reading and talking with staff as to what we were really trying to address. So if it's impervious area, we're talking about lot coverage. If we're talking about square footage, 2-story doesn't do anything with impervious area coverage. So
Right.
they're unrelated in that respect. But I mean, if you built a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot home and you had a 3-car garage or maybe a 3-car garage and an RV garage and you had porches and you had a basketball court, again, somebody may call that a McMansion. Somebody else may say, I'm building my safe space for my family, for my kids, because this is where I want all of my friends, my kids' friends to hang out. Well, you're going to naturally increase the amount of impervious area that you have. And I don't know that that's anybody else's business. I'm not advocating that we allow manufacturing businesses on my home. So I want to build another 10,000 square feet. Those covenants and those restrictions, not covenants. So maybe some cases of covenants, those issues are already covered by the zoning and the village ordinances. So I just don't see any reason to confuse those.
Thank you. That was a good.
But we still have a height limit.
Well, we still have a height limit, but something's got to give.
Well.
Well, you can still go up, 26 feet is what I believe the limit is currently. You can still build a 10,000 square foot house by building a 5,000 square foot over a 5,000 square feet. So you reduced your footprint size, but you didn't reduce the square footage size. And if somebody's concerned about a McMansion, now you're looking up at something that's 26 feet tall. So again, I'm not sure what the question is that's trying to be answered or what the problem is that's trying to be solved. But from what I read as the proposal of this limitation, I don't see why we're going there. And if somebody simply says, well, I think those houses are too big. Well, okay, it's an opinion, but I don't know that I certainly wouldn't feel comfortable talking to somebody else about what their opportunities are in life versus mine. So I would hope that they wouldn't do that to me.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Next.
Okay, next is Norm Schreifels.
Hello, thank you for waiting.
Norm Schreipels. I live at 224 Calle Bonita here in Corrales. I'm glad Gary went before me because he said most everything we need to talk about. I'm going to approach it from a different way. I've lived here for over 30 years, raised my kids here. I know some of you, I'm a custom home builder. I've built over 50 houses in Corrales and probably, $35 million in sales, which all gross receipts went to Corrales. That's the way I make my living. And a lot of those houses are borderline on the amount of square footage we're allowed to build. And I'm sure that if this is reduced down to anything less than it is, it's going to lose those buyers that want to come and they want to have their house, they want to have their barn, they want to have what they want to have. We have not only the 35% in place, but we have setbacks. So we have all kind of things in place to keep everything looking nice. And I've built some really big houses down here and some very small ones, and the big ones flow right through there. They look great. I'm afraid, I know for a fact that I'm going to have a hard time selling more houses if something goes through to that extreme 20-25%. Those sales will stop because that's just my particular clientele. And, it all flows. That's real estate. People that don't make their money. It's grocery tax that the village doesn't get. It just goes on and on and on. It's property taxes on the smaller property. Everything's gonna snowball if we do this. So to repeat everything he said, I agree with everything there. And I've just seen it on the financial end, both personally, my business, and gross receipts to the village and realtors, et cetera. Some of our trades that live down here. I think it'd be devastating if that was to decrease. That's really what I have to say. You have any questions for me?
Questions?
Yes,
Please.
Commissioner, thank you. You're probably in the best position to answer this, but I mentioned what the effect might be on insurance costs, mortgage bankers. I mean, will I lend on this on such a small bit of land? And property taxes? There are, in my mind, other implications of this particular shrinkage. But I'm too vague to be able to answer it. So if you could speak to those that you think might also trouble us.
Can you ask that again, please?
Yeah, you've developed homes and you've sold them.
Mhm.
And as part of that, you probably at least know something about mortgage lending, something about the insurance costs for homes, something about property taxes based on square footage, something about, I can't think of anything really else, but I wonder, would this shrinkage in your mind have any effect on those peripheral things to just what you do as building?
Absolutely. A lot of it's driven by the price of, the value of our land here now, as was mentioned before. You can pay $300,000 to $500,000 for a lot down on the, make it clear, I won't do that, but some people do, in the Greenbelt area. And the people that buy those are going to have, bigger houses, more expensive houses. And if they're getting a mortgage, they're going to need to build at least about 3 times the value of the lot minimum. The mortgage companies, there's different criteria they might ask for. So it's kind of you can get a loan for anything, any size, any place, but those buyers will go away and those mortgages will go away. The insurance on them will go away. And a lot of my subcontractors and my realtors, brokers, you guys know them all, live here in Corrales. All of it'll be a trickle down all the way around.
Okay, how would it impact the horse community? Corrales fancies itself a horse town in many ways, or it used to, and it's coming back. But the horse community, would barns count against this 20% or 30%?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that would be.
And I've built a lot of barns and some of them are not too big, but some of them are very large. And they have all kind of animals. They're 2 horses, they're goats, everything else. That counts as your impermeable and your square footage.
Well, thank you. You're helping me at least understand the impact here.
A sidewalk, a pole barn, even if it has a dirt floor, it counts because it has a roof over it.
And you talked about the non-permeable.
Right. And it, it adds up in a hurry. If you do a driveway and you're on an acre and you do a driveway that's 80 feet long by 15, 20 feet wide, boom, that's a lot of space. Not everybody does concrete. Some people do gravel. Mm-hmm. And there's been people arguing that gravel should count, which I don't understand. But, there is those people out there pushing that as well.
Please. I'm done.
Okay, I'm not, let me just ask the question a little bit differently because I had heard this very third hand. So if I have a 2-acre lot and I only want to build a small house,
Mhm.
Are you saying a mortgage company won't want to lend me the money?
It's all going to be on how you have to qualify.
Well, yeah.
I was trying to say generally, if you have a $400,000 lot, you're gonna put 1.2, 1.3 million or more into your house. So I don't know if I got to your answer, but the mortgage all depends on what you qualify for.
Okay, so it I really don't have to build it bigger because I'm on a bigger lot. I can still,
You don't have to, but you're not gonna see somebody build 1,000 square foot house on a, $500,000 lot. I mean, maybe it
there's a
happened.
lot of trees.
I haven't found that person yet. I feel like I'm not answering the question.
That's right.
No, that's why we're having a work study,
Yeah.
to my mind, because I needed to hear some things that other than, I don't like the big houses. Well, I don't much either, but so what? It's not.
I'll be the first to say there's some houses that I've seen built that I think are horrendous, but that's my opinion. They have the right to build what they want to build within the rules that we have. And I go back to it's my right. It's my land. I have the right to use it, and 35%, that's a lot of open space on your property.
Yeah.
So
Can I ask a quick question?
yes, ma'am.
Please.
Of the houses that you've built, because you've done quite a few in Corrales and have some experience with this, on the 1 acre lots that we're talking about, and some of them tend to go for a little bit more, how many of them end up doing nothing impervious beyond just the house? Meaning, how many of the homes that you've built don't put in a pool, a concrete driveway, a basketball court, etc., patio, anything? It's just the house.
That's hard to answer. Every single one I've ever done will have the garage, the covered patios. Maybe 20% of them have pools. But every one I build is one of a kind, and they're all different. So it's kind of hard to narrow that down. But
Sure.
they're all going to have big covered porches so they can enjoy the scenery all the way around the house. Most of them have large garages or a shop or a art studio or something like that. And used to be casitas, but we haven't done those in a while.
Blames me.
I don't. He's been a tremendous help.
That helps a bunch. I just want to help paint for everybody the impact that this could potentially have on not just housing and not just square footage. So thank you for helping
And the
illustrate.
financial part would be alive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Lana Smittle.
I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. I'm the director of the Home Builders Association. I actually live in Rio Rancho, just moved there. So mine's 903 Hopi Road, Southeast Rio Rancho. But we submitted a letter on behalf of our builder members, our subcontractors, the ones who build all these beautiful, I would say, high-end homes. To me, they're very high-end home. And those are the people who are going to be affected. And so we also have some other landowners here, and I'm just going to leave it to them because they can answer all the questions way better than me.
Wow, thank you.
Okay, Aaron Cook.
I actually have a question for the last person.
Okay. Please come back. We got a little question.
Yes. Would you say a homeowner would have a harder time finding a builder if they were more limited to the size they can build?
I would say there's a lot of factors. I mean, anytime we put more restrictions, it makes it harder. I mean, someone who has been saving and saving and saving, they finally get their land here, they go to pick their builder, and then all of a sudden their dream home or horse barn or porches or whatever it is, they have to shrink it. And so, I mean, we do like restrictions. Obviously, there has to be some kind, but this group, builders, us, we think that y'all have a good number. We don't know why it's being looked at changing, but when you do that, it does. I mean, I'd love to be able to build a beautiful home here on one of these beautiful lots. And every time we add more restrictions, it cuts out a little bit of a segment who no longer can build that house that they've had in plans for months or years. And then all of a sudden it changes. And so it does put a little bit of a restriction on it. Yeah. Makes it a little bit harder.
Right.
Unless you're wanting Norm to build you a house, but
Okay. But thank you for answering.
we'll figure it out.
Okay, Aaron.
How y'all doing tonight?
Thank you for asking. Tell us who you are.
My name is Aaron Cook. I actually live in Rio Rancho, but I work for a local builder and a developer that owns quite a bit of land in Corrales. I've served as a land developer and a civil engineering consultant for over 20 years, and I've built subdivisions, thousands of lots, hundreds of subdivisions all over Texas, New Mexico, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. I've been through these exact same proceedings with so many municipalities that I have a little advice that I would like to really share with everybody. And one of the things I want to challenge, and a lot of people have already left, but I want to challenge everybody to think about what's your favorite part of living in the village of Corrales. I can tell you, I spend quite a bit of time here. I drive through here all the time. I absolutely love this area. It's got a lot of walkable spaces. It's very open and it's got great views. And every time I come through here, my wife and I come through here all the time. We absolutely enjoy that. But there is something that we need to discuss from a technical point of view. This 35% coverage or impervious area is actually matters from a technical perspective, and it usually leads towards drainage, usually leads towards detention ponds and open space. And in an area where the village of Corrales, it does not have regional ponds, it doesn't have regional drainage facilities. So you reduce that usage on a per acre lot basis. So everybody detains that volume of water for when the monsoons come, for when the rain comes on your lot, right? So that's a great idea. And impervious area actually matters, and it really does. Detention ponds are open space, and they can be landscaped, and they are areas that cannot be built with flat work or buildings, and they create opportunities for beautification and the creation of your artistic view of what your lot feels like. And I feel like using a 35% coverage for a lot addresses all of the issues we have as a community based on our rainfall intensities and the monsoon seasons of where drainage actually matters, right? We don't really have offsite sheet flow. We don't have lots draining onto one another. We actually have berms on the property lines and detention ponds that contain your onsite flow, which is really the technical perspective of what we're looking at from that 35% coverage area. One thing I want to say is that as a property owner, as many of these people have said, limiting, whether you've lived here for 1 year, 5 years, or 50 years, it doesn't really matter. Limiting the rights of your neighbor to develop what they want on your property is wrong. It's not American. This country is the greatest country on the planet, and we all benefit from that in many different ways. I do not believe that someone who bought a property 20 years ago who's been hanging on to it and they're ready to retire, or they're ready to start a new family and have these open spaces for a basketball court or a pool or a vineyard or whatever they want to do. I do not believe that they should be restricted by an open space ordinance that, from a practical standpoint and from a technical standpoint, absolutely has no implications on your development. That's all I have.
Help us understand. Right now we have 35%.
Yes.
Apparently, there is some interest among some people to limit that to 25%, which would give more opportunity for retention ponds, not less.
Yeah, and we do not need that based on our rainfall intensities. I mean, we get what, 9 or 10 inches of rain per year.
Hopefully.
And yes, and we need it. I mean, we really need that. And
Yeah.
and in other municipalities from Las Cruces all the way up to Taos, Santa Fe, they have no more reduction more than 40%. So there is a runoff factor. There is a coefficient that you can apply to your increase impervious area, which we already have in our ordinance. It's
242. What you build these little 12 to 18 inch ponds in your front yard that accumulate all of your runoff. If there were to be any trade-off, if you do want to, I do not think that reducing the impervious area really would apply to anything from that perspective. I think other municipalities that I have worked with and in this state and other states, you may increase your ponding coefficient. You may want to build your ponds bigger, which in turn actually limits your usage a little bit. But a huge stroke of reduction from 35 to 25 or 20%, there's really no technical standard to really implement that across a development like this that does not have drainage issues. We do not have, cross lot ponding. We don't have people's houses flooding because a hurricane comes through or anything like that. We have regional monsoons that come through, and we have rainfall events, and they get detained and they evaporate or they percolate into the soil, and nobody really understands the difference between that. I don't think reducing that coverage area would really benefit anybody. I don't really personally understand that.
Mr. Chairman, go ahead. Sorry.
Please.
Mr. Chairman and fellow commissioners, I was looking at the comprehensive plan draft, and under goal 4-11, it's maximize stormwater retention. So it gets back to this issue.
Absolutely.
We'd like to make data-driven decisions. I know that's not common in politics. And since you sound like you're an expert in this, and maybe there's some experts on the commission, have there been, I don't know what you'd call it, geologic studies or runoff studies in Corrales so that we could actually base a decision on data, whether or not, number one, it's a problem here. Number two, whether changing the percentage would solve the problem. And then number three, maybe during our discussion amongst us, we can talk about what the final draft of the comprehensive plan actually said. Because I think I'm looking at an older draft here, but do you have any comments on the first two?
And yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't reviewed all the data, but I know, from developing and working in engineering all these years, the rules that y'all have in place are sound. I mean, unless you're having complaints and issues with cross lot drainage and people's houses being flooded, that 35% lot coverage rule, the genesis of that is for impervious area, which is runoff, which, when you build concrete or you build a structure, regardless of what it is, it increases the runoff. It's faster and it speeds up and it's contained. And I would ask, instead of reducing your lot coverage, which is going to have almost no benefit to a drainage perspective, you could increase the rate at which it's detained. And that would have maybe a 10% difference in the size of your ponds, but it wouldn't impact somebody from building a basketball court or a swimming pool or anything like that, because they had a 12-inch deep pool or a 12-inch deep pond that's 100 feet by 50 feet. And now it's 18 inches instead of 12 inches deep, which contains a high volume of water. And here in New Mexico and in Corrales, I've studied the geological reports. Most of the water just percolates into the ground or it evaporates because of the intense heat that we have here. I do think from a technical perspective, we do need to look at that before we just stroke something across to reduce the property rights of people who have owned land for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hold on 1 second.
I just had a quick comment about our retention. So right now, our calculations are 242 cubic feet of retention per 1,000 square feet of impervious surface. And that's based on 2.9 inches of rain in 24 hours. It did go up once. It used to be 2.6 inches. So if we start getting more rain, then that would happen. The big problem really is just getting people to keep their ponds maintained, because the fresh ponds work really well right now.
And they do. And we have, and across Texas and other states, they have increased the intensities, which is, exactly as Lori stated. And an increase of, we talk about in an engineering perspective, we talk about exceedance. You have 100% and then you have an exceedance level. There may be a 10 or 15% exceedance level that we want to design our ponds to. If somebody fills it with rock or sedimentation fills it, there are exceedance levels that are allowable that a lot of municipalities allow. And I think that's a better level to go to, instead of restricting the square footage or impervious area or whatever you want to call it of a lot, maybe increasing the detention volume standards by 10 or 15%. Whereas you're not restricting people from building a house that they love and they dream of for their children or for their wife or their husband or whoever they have. You're really just digging a bigger hole in the front yard that you already have to build
And maintain.
and maintain. Absolutely.
It would be difficult to go back with recommendation that we raise the limit.
Yeah, well,
35%.
absolutely. Yeah.
But I really appreciate your insights into this.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, and we have, it looks like some more.
Next is Mackenzie Bishop.
Good evening, guys. Mr. Chairman, I don't have to address it officially like that.
No, but your name?
Mackenzie Bishop. I'm a Corrales resident, also own a home building company here in Albuquerque. I built about 6 or 7 houses in Corrales, including my own, and about 2,000 other houses across the city and other areas. So while I am not an attorney or a land use expert in terms of from a legal perspective, did help shape the integrated development ordinance with the city of Albuquerque. So I have a lot of experience with land use and how this ought to work and how it should work. And there's 2 words that I really want to talk about. The first is intent. And let's talk about intent. So when you read the current Corrales code, it says 35% impervious. And the intent there, when I wasn't there, I wasn't in the room. I don't know if any of us were in the room when that was drafted. But when you see that, the intent there is a technical intent. The technical intent is about drainage. It's about how do we ensure that the water that falls on my lot, and if I build too much of my lot and don't retain it on site, then I'm going to affect my neighbors, right? So what we're trying to do from what I can gather, and ultimately I'll also say, in all the houses I've done, whether it's in the green belt, I have to provide a ponding plan that follows exactly what Ms. Stout just mentioned. If I build on the high slope areas, I have to get a licensed engineer to draft a grading plan to ensure that I'm ponding everything on site and not affecting my neighbors, right? So that's already a technical policy standard that is working. It's working great. This clause in the village code is being weaponized. It's being weaponized by people that are trying to shrink houses, that don't like what's going in next door to them. And ultimately what they're trying to do is infringe on property rights of people that aren't theirs because they just straight up don't like it. So the second word I'm going to talk about is a legal term. It's called an encumbrance. A covenant is an encumbrance. You guys talked about that earlier. This is an encumbrance, right? It's not that long ago that the village of Corrales passed a rule. They've since redacted that rule, and I won't get into the litany of the stuff that went into that. They passed a rule that you couldn't build a house on an acre that didn't have, or you couldn't build a house on a lot that had less than 1 net acre. And that net acre was reflective of easements. Like, that's still part of my lot, but that was a taking. That is an actual taking. And when the village of Corrales did that, and that created litigation and ultimately created some legal ramifications for the village. By reducing this, it's the same thing. It's an encumbrance on property rights. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. An individual property owner, if I own an acre of land that has utilities to it, my land is worth $400,000 today. If you do this and it makes my land worth $350,000 because it reduces the usability to a prospective homeowner, that person probably has a legal claim against the village. So I just want to caution everybody, like, that is any encumbrances on use, like, we have to be really, really careful with that because it is a taking. You're limiting the use of a piece of land. And so I know that this is going through a legislative process. I really welcome that we're having this dialogue. Certainly would stand for any questions because this is the whole point of this process, but it is an encumbrance and we're talking about increasing that encumbrance on people's land, and it's unnecessary from a technical standpoint. We're already meeting the standard. We have to meet the standard. from a technical drainage standpoint in order to build in Corrales. So I don't know if there's any questions, but yeah, I thank you for you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I don't.
Okay, Donna Reichman. Donna may have left. Last I have David Hill, sorry.
Hey, I'm David Hill, and we just bought a property at 16 Miles Down the Road.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Megan O'Neill.
Closer to the mic.
Yes, we just bought a property, so we are brand new to Corrales. I also apologize for my attire. I came straight from a Leadership Albuquerque event, which required hiking. Just a couple of things that we wanted to say. I think it's very important that we understand. Oh, also a little bit of background. I'm an attorney. And so I find this extremely interesting and a great exercise. And I think it is something that needs to be looked at very carefully. That being said, I think it's very important that we understand the motive behind why this change is being proposed, because the motive is going to direct the narrative and it's going to direct the responses. So if the motive is drainage, well, we can address drainage without shrinking the size of the amount of land we're allowed to use on our property. My attorney brain goes to what are the most least restrictive measures we can take before we take this very extreme step of limiting our land usage from 35% to 25% or 20, whatever it is being proposed. And when we're talking about numbers, that's not a small number. So for instance, he's the number guy. He's also a builder, a contractor. 35%, you're able to have a little over 15,000 square feet. You take it down to 20, you're at 8,700 square feet. I mean, it's almost half. David and I, we chose Corrales because it's safe, it's beautiful. We want an opportunity to raise his son, my stepson, in a place that's safe. And we do want him to have a pool. We do want him to have a basketball court, things that we didn't have growing up. And we want his friends to come to our house where it is safe and not send him into Albuquerque where crime is on the rise, we all know. And then as far as the existing ordinances, you know, there are several in place. We've looked at all of them because we're currently building our house. I think those, in addition to the covenants that the individual communities have, the neighborhoods have, these kind of address these concerns already. But again, we need to understand what the motive is, because if it's just because somebody doesn't like somebody else's house, well, that's in my mind a personal problem. Because I will tell you, and I agree with the last speaker, we bought our house in detrimental reliance, a legal term, that we could build and use up 35% of our property. And I will also tell you that if we are told that we can't because we have already submitted our plans, and that yes, it will cause legal issues. And I think that we should have the opportunity, because we were told we could use that, to be able to continue with our plans. So I don't know if you have anything else, but.
No, you said it all.
But
I don't know. I just heard a threat.
not at all, just, it's a reality. It's a reality, especially, I mean, obviously rules.
Of course it is. I'm
Yeah.
just being facetious. Forgive me.
Yeah. Yes, I understand that rules when they're implemented, that they're done prospectively, but I do have a concern what that does for homeowners who have bought vacant lands who haven't actually started construction yet.
I just haven't heard the term detrimental reliance in years.
Oh.
So it was refreshing.
He loves that word. Yeah, very good. Yeah,
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to speak.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a procedural question for the commission. We have two items on our work study tonight. One may be so far along that and that would be the parking, that we could just send something to the council, if that's a possibility. Is this one needs a little more work, or are we ready to send something to the council?
I'm ready.
Ready.
And I appreciate the, Lori, having the folks here. I didn't know why they were here, but I appreciate the work study format because I learned a lot tonight.
Mr. Chairman, since we're still discussing this first issue and not the parking issue,
Yeah.
looking back through the drafts and the amendments and the comprehensive plan, there's a lot of reference to non-drainage issues. And clearly the intent was to reduce, as some of these folks have said. However, I'm not going to say it in a negative way. I'm going to try to say it in a neutral way, that the intent was to reduce the footprint, reduce the size of housing, open up green space. Those are all legitimate policy decisions that you can agree or not disagree with.
Right.
And so it sounds like the village, I missed the meeting last month, but it sounds like the village wants us to weigh in on this policy question. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I'm still debating in my own mind about it, but it sounds like there's consensus already amongst the other commissioners which way to go. So carry on. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. If you would allow it, our building official is actually on vacation, but he had two quick comments that I could pass along if you allow.
Please.
So he's our building official / inspector. And what he told me was he will absolutely expect to see more 2-story homes if this passes. And secondly, he is in agreement with me that this is going to be very difficult to enforce. 35% we can enforce, but if someone currently has 32% lot coverage and they've been saving up and want to put in a pool, we're just going to have to tell them no.
May I say one other thing?
Please.
We've talked about the lot coverage, and that's one aspect of this, but there are ancillary issues. For instance, there's a conflict of laws regarding the marijuana that you outlined way back when, which is sort of gone sub rosa. So when we get the motive for these things, I begin to think that drainage may not be the most important motive here, that there may be, as my colleague so artfully put.
Commissioner, if you look at the fourth whereas on the draft ordinance, I think what Commissioner Pearls just said, for example, this is from the comprehensive plan recommendation, require each residential lot to retain 75%. And again, we're really also looking at up to 80% of total net lot area and permeable surface to preserve open spaces, view sheds, and farmland. 2-story homes are not going to do that. And again, we're talking about footprint here. So it's impervious surface, considering it a footprint. So if you've got more 2-story homes, that does unfortunately change one of their objectives.
Well, it's certainly not an easy answer on this one. It is a complex issue, and I really appreciate the information that was provided tonight, because I think we lifted the rock on a number of things.
Well, Commissioner, Lori has, given us a memo that raises these several issues.
Yes.
What we've heard tonight, I think, helps us understand the origin of the 35% probably had a whole lot more to do with drainage than a number of people may have imagined in recent discussions, because intent seems to be about size of homes.
Yeah. Personal taste or distaste.
Yeah.
Right.
And, there, other communities have gone into sort of a architectural approach, as somebody here today said, coloration, and, you could accomplish those kinds of goals differently. I don't know how we communicate to the village council, in a few sentences, it's a little difficult to capture what we've heard and put it into how do we communicate this? Please, this is work study and we're happy to.
I want to go back to one thing because Commissioner Rowe
Yeah,
asked the question on the financial impacts.
yes,
So
he did.
I want to bring something up. So when you do market analysis of appraisal values of properties, the size of the home in relationship to the price of the land has a correlation on values. So you can imagine that a 3-bedroom, let's say this, a house with 3 bathrooms and a kitchen and a 10 by 10 bedroom in 3 different locations is going to cost a lot of money per square foot to do it because you're building the most expensive portions of the home, the kitchen, the 3 bathrooms, whatever else it is. The larger you expand the footprint, going back to the 35%, and the way that kind of the costing and valuations work within the appraisal, bank loans, mortgages, those kinds of things, there's a ratio that they look for. And in that ratio, that 35% number, don't say because I went down to 30%. Oh, okay, it's okay to do 30. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if you look at the overall structure, the cost of garage is less than the cost of the bathroom, the cost of the bedroom is less than the cost of the kitchen, those kinds of things. When you bring all those things together, you get a metric that works really well, where you end up with, a 4,000 square foot home. And that 4,000 square foot home is also expected in today's market to have at least a three-car garage. It's expected to have porches. It's expected to have other improvements on the property that inure to the valuation of the whole thing, so that when they do a market analysis or they do a cost ratio analysis of all that stuff, it all works with the conformity of the way the appraisals work and the way the ranks look at the property. So in other words, you could spend $500,000 building bathrooms and kitchen and high intensity cost areas, and you may not get the appraisal for it because you don't have any square footage that offsets the rest of it. So it's really a whole practice. And I didn't want, it's been bugging me since you asked the question, and I didn't want to leave tonight without understanding what the financial impacts of that are. You really are messing, so to speak. When you have a $400,000 lot, you've got to build a house unless you're paying cash out of your pocket because you don't need a loan, or your debt to equity ratio is really high. Or low. You have a lot of equity because you bring a lot of cash into it and you're only borrowing a little bit of money. But if you're doing an 80-20 loan or something like that, you really kind of need the square footage to offset the land costs so that it all blends properly. So I hope that.
No, it really does. And it's such a multifaceted problem that I really want to thank. I think it was Lori that actually came up with the idea that when this was initially just put down here,
Yes.
it looked like it was going to go through sort of. But immediately, Lori and others on this commission recognize that we better get some help in here because it's not an easy fix. It sounds appealing if you don't like big houses or whatever, but it's what we heard tonight were a number of factors which would say, no, it's not a good idea unless you want to make it 50%. Don't do that. But you know what I'm saying.
Chances are the people that are building larger homes, obviously they're spending more money to do it.
Mhm.
They have more discretionary funds. Not everybody, but mostly have more discretionary funds to do their landscaping larger, put in more trees, do more things that improve the ambiance and the overall look of the property because it's expected of what they're doing.
It's critical to village charm. I mean, Corrales is a
So
gem-like thing.
most people don't build McMansions and, make it ugly.
Most.
Your definition of ugly may be different than mine.
That's
And I'm
right.
sorry for that. But you understand what I'm trying to get.
Yeah.
Is there's a lot to go in this, but I didn't I don't want to take any more time, but I wanted to explain.
No,
my
I
thoughts on
appreciate that.
on the Financial side. Thank you, sir.
I guess
Mary?
people will tell me I'm making this too complicated, but I think there's a difference between half an acre, a 3/4 acre, or an acre lot and the percentage. Because the amount of land you're leaving open is very small if it's on 3/4 of an acre. Percentage wise, it may be the same, but the true amount is very small. with Big old house.
We have a possible answer here.
Some people disagree.
So from a practical standpoint, I get what you're saying. The calculus he just went through is made worse on a smaller lot. So if a 3/4 acre lot, I can build a house on it that's maybe 10% smaller under the current ordinance. If we try to change that rule and make it even more restrictive on a smaller lot, it's going to diminish the value of a smaller lot even more, because you have the exact same calculus. You have to get enough square footage to offset the land value for these houses to appraise, because at the end of the day, we have a bunch of fixed costs. It costs so much to build a bathroom. It costs so much to build a nice kitchen, all of those things, whether the house is 3,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet. So on a smaller lot, that's why the percentage rule kind of works really well, is because, it's in scale with the size of the lot. Trying to limit it further will only compound the issue that the previous speaker just mentioned.
Does it make a difference between, because at one point they were talking about the square footage instead of percentage, correct?
Right, we're not
They were
talking about square footage. We're talking about percent of impervious surface, anything roofed or paved on a lot.
Yeah, I got that. But for a while, they were talking about setting a limit of 10, whatever the square footage. And my
Yeah,
thinking
they
was-
sent that over to us.
Did they send it over?
Well, it
Yeah, it's in
says
there.
right here, well, let's have
that-
a number.
As far as I'm concerned, laws should clarify and not confuse. And I don't know about you, my head's still spinning from some of the math and the drainage stuff that we've heard tonight, but,
And it does seem a little bit like we're confounding what is meant to be kind of a land use regulation with a technical drainage regulation. If we wanted to eliminate impermeable, because think about the folks that build a house and they put in a gravel driveway, but maybe they save up some money and they put in an asphalt driveway later, they have no way of enforcing that, even though they're probably over the 35% threshold. And so it just creates some practical enforceability issues.
Yeah.
Put in a basketball court, put in a pool. People do these improvements all the time once they get certificate of occupancy from the village. And, it just seems like we're confounding things a little bit. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it is kind of I think a really good rule to live by, and it doesn't seem like it's broke. So that would just be my advice.
Commissioner Roque, I also anticipated the possibility of other people coming. I mean, this was publicly announced that we were going to discuss this. So tonight, all the people who came to discuss with us during the work study are telling us, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they've given a variety of very nuanced, technical and other analyses that lead us to potentially that conclusion. And we didn't try to not have people here who wanted us to do this, to make the change.
no. But we did hear collateral information from the group that talked about the ambiance of the neighborhood and,
Tonight
I
we
think-
did, and when we heard discussion about the comprehensive plan,
Right, exactly.
we had a lot of interest in somehow or other having smaller footprints, right?
I don't know if Gloria's answered this question. Why did Counselor Murray come up with this 20%? Is that just like a number off the top of his head?
As far as I can tell, because the Comprehensive Plan Committee had specifically mentioned looking at 25. So I don't know where that came from.
So are we ready to send something to the council?
Well, I don't know how we would fashion it other than something along the lines of, and again, I think Lori, probably it's going to fall to you or your scrivener to do this, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the memo, it actually references the July draft meeting minutes because we were supposed to talk about this in August and August ran long, but there were some things that were discussed at length and the issues that were noted. So if you wanted to agree or disagree with the three items,
Yes.
and then if you want to make a recommendation, keep as is or make it X%, I could then put up sort of some, I guess, some bullet points and send to all of you that could then be voted upon in October.
Well, we could vote on October.
Whatever you wish.
I think that would be a good idea. And, I lost my thought.
Chairman,
Yes.
if someone asked me to do anything, I'd make a motion that we recommend the council leave the existing ordinance unchanged on lot coverage.
Recommend that there be no change.
Correct.
I would second that if that is a motion.
That's a motion.
Discussion?
And leave it means 35%.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
Okay,
Unchanged.
there's discussion. Commissioner Pearls?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Lori, can you tell us for sure what it says in the final version of the comp plan that the village council approved in regard to this issue?
Well, I can tell you what's mentioned in his draft ordinance in whereas number 4. Comprehensive Plan Recommendation 1-2.2 currently reads, consider revising lot coverage requirements. For example, require each residential lot to retain 75% of the total net lot area in permeable surface to preserve open spaces, view sheds, and farmland. And then it goes on to say some things that aren't really in the ordinance. I'm a little worried about whereas is being taken as law because it goes on to say promote the development of appropriately scaled building envelopes on the remaining 25%. So they give 10,890 square feet of a 1 acre lot. But we're talking about percentages too. And then it goes on to say impermeable surfaces. This is all from comp plan. Impermeable surfaces may include, but are not limited to concrete slabs, paved and gravel driveways and buildings. Unfortunately, there's no engineer or architect alive who's going to consider gravel an impervious surface. It's simply not going to happen and it's going to get challenged and we're going to lose. And then it talks about clustering all impermeable surfaces on no more than 50% of a subdivided lot, putting everything together. That didn't make it into the ordinance, but it did make it into the whereases, and that worries me because, again, people may see that and say, well, I've been told I can have this, and gravel's, it states some things that aren't in the final ordinance.
So, Mr. Chairman, my inclination, since we voted to support the comp plan and it was passed, is to support a resolution that would also support the comprehensive plan. The way this is written doesn't, but the motion also doesn't. And
Well,
that's
the comprehensive
frustrating.
Plan, if I could,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
been adopted.
recommended that there be consideration.
Right.
So the consideration of the council came back to us.
Right.
And now we're considering,
Right.
so we are considering.
We're considering an ill-formed draft, but the motion wants us to flat stick with the 35%. So neither one of them is really solving the problems, it seems to me.
So,
So the way to solve the
Chair,
problem
no,
in my mind
no,
would
no.
be to table the motion and redraft this in a way that reflects whatever our sentiment is. But there's a motion on the floor, and so I just
Yeah.
wanted to get in on the discussion side.
just one thing to say
Go
about
ahead.
the comprehensive plan has been adopted.
Yeah.
And it's just like you said, they said maybe we should consider looking at this, and we've looked at this. And I think there's been adequate input and reasoning stated. And I think the unintended consequence of changing this lot coverage will be to drive the construction of more two-story homes.
To invite litigation.
Well,
Yeah.
that's another downstream thing, but the certain thing will be far more two-story homes, and if anything, that would impact view sheds far more than a 10% larger footprint on all this, and no one's going to go build a 35% of 44,560 square feet. I don't remember how big it is, home without all the other stuff around it. As members of the public have testified. So I've made a motion. It's been seconded.
I'm before, and we have a motion and a second. I'm going to vote in favor, also hoping and encouraging the council to listen to the recording of tonight's meeting. Unless there's objection, we'll call the roll.
Okay, so the motion made by Commissioner Harper is to leave the ordinance as is, 35% lot coverage, seconded by Michael Roque. So for the vote, Mick Harper,
Aye.
Mary Chappelle,
Aye.
Bob Pearls,
No.
Michael Roque,
I,
Jody Harrington,
Aye.
and Jerry Sturmer.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Encourage your neighbors and your village council members to listen to the tape recording for tonight. Okay, is there any interest in pursuing the parking? I think we have potentially a recommendation to the council,
Thank you.
which
I don't know what they had.
which is all in red,
Can't do anything.
correct?
Correct.
The text in red could be our recommendation to the council on the question of parking. Enclosed by these nice pictures.
Well, that's pretty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I drew the bad one, I confess.
What's that?
I drew the bad picture. I was attempting to draw a sign. The last picture,
You did good.
Well, the last picture, oh, you just drew
I
that. Yeah,
attempted.
but those are, they can go with the recommendation to the council if we like.
So the two first pictures, fire department parking only, that was something that Chief Martinez put up at both of his fire stations. And then he took the bull by the horns at Sandia Bar and asked them to have on the Corrales Road side, I think there's 2 or 3 of them that say no parking, loading and unloading only. And that gives him a place to park the fire truck should there be a fire, unless loading or unloading is happening. So these were just examples of kind of what it would look like. It would just say, no parking, violators may be ticketed or towed. And then the language in a couple of places in our code would be more or less identical. And then there would just need to be a specific fine or escalating fine amounts. And that's something we could work with legal on. Council could just figure out what the fines would be. But that gives our both, it's in the section 14 is what the police looks at. And then the other section 18 is for our code enforcement officer. So that would give all of us the ability to enforce the no parking.
I just have one other thing is, we had some testimony from, over the years, we've had testimony from homeowners along streets adjacent to businesses, and they complain about their driveways being blocked, by patrons of the neighboring business. So I only came up with this little thing here. It says, and I've seen these things before that say no parking between signs or no parking, 50 feet that way or something like that. So that's just one thing we might ask the council to consider looking at. I don't know if it adds any value or not, but, and then,
I was just someplace where those are frequently used.
Mhm.
yeah,
No parking between signs.
right.
So, but this language would provide that ability, right? Where the signs are placed, and you could have signs that say no parking between signs.
And I think Commissioner Harper, you had mentioned, because we were talking about whose responsibility is it to put these up, and you suggested that the village do it. And so I did talk to Public Works, and the director said that, that's a good idea. If we anticipate a problem area or we see that there's a problem area, we put the signs up, and people are lazy and they're not going to walk. The whole point of our code, residential and commercial, is that you need to have enough parking on your property. And now the village has purchased 2 very large lots that offer additional free public parking. So that's what we have here. And the intent here is to essentially discourage or prohibit commercial parking along residential streets.
I guess my only issue about or toad is, it seems to me the village would have to contract with the towing company. We don't have a place in Corrales to leave a bunch of towed cars. I don't know, I would see that as kind of a vacant threat if I were parking there.
Well, if you use a towing company as a contractor to do it, they all have yards or they have agreements, and
Right.
that would be further incentive for miscreants to avoid parking in no parking zones if they have to go to Rio Rancho or Albuquerque to fetch the car.
Pick up their car.
Yeah,
So
I'd have to know that it was there's a contract.
well, I think that is how municipalities do those things. I don't think anyone, well, I can't speak to that. But it seems to me that most municipalities use a contract towing company for that sort of thing. I only know this from giving someone a ride when.
Yeah,
when
you have
more-
no personal knowledge.
No personal knowledge.
Science is fine.
So are we ready to suggest something to the council?
But are we gonna add Commissioner Harper's other sign?
Well, I don't know that
I think
we
council-
are recommending the design of every sign,
Yeah,
but they asked us for some help, and we have some suggestions in the red language here, and we can give some pictures. I think that Lori could also give Commissioner Harper's pictures and let the village administration resolve that.
I've not been privy to a lot of this discussion, so forgive me if I
Oh,
have a tremendous grasp of the obvious.
we had some neighbors come and testified how difficult it is to maneuver in your neighborhood if you have,
No, absolutely.
that-
I understand that. What about residential parking only?
as a sign.
Yeah,
Well,
You did talk-
whatever the parking signs would be, I mean, that would not, we don't have to resolve that, but
well, what
you
I'm
want to
saying,
include that.
well, when you say parking between signs, that means you have to buy 2 signs, So it's just a cost thing. And it's not an empty threat, which I guess towing probably would be. And I agree with you that don't make empty threats. If you're going to do it, do it.
Right.
I noticed that the fire chief on his sign does say, vehicles towed at owner's expense. So maybe he's got a line on that. Really, if people start getting parking tickets, which is probably what would happen, that's going to be a strong incentive to not do that anymore.
From having lived on a college campus once upon a time and having parked illegally on accident multiple times, my car has been towed. And it does get towed at the owner's expense.
Mhm.
It happens, there are contractors who come and get your car. The police come by, they put that lovely bright yellow or blaze orange, I'm sorry, sticker on your window that you can never get off. You know, and they call the tow company. You have to then make arrangements with the tow company to go get your car back and pay the fees and et cetera. The concern I would have about the residential parking only is that seems like an enforcement nightmare because I just don't know how we would know whose car's supposed to be there versus who's not supposed to be there. Whereas the signs make it really clear. If there's just no parking in an area, then there's no exception to the rule and there's no parking allowed in that area except for exceptions with our first responders.
I'm persuaded by that.
Yeah, Chairman,
Yes.
I have one, and counselors, Commissioner, sorry. I have a problem with this number one, commercial business parking is not allowed along residential streets. I think this issue of restricting access to the street, I'm thinking especially along West Ella near the Sandia Bar. I think we could limit that to something like no parking this side of street along the entire extent, down to the first curve or something like that, except on holidays or something like that. Because where are you going to park for the 4th of July parade? Where are you going to park for Harvest Festival or whatever? And that's going to be a tough one to my eye.
I will say that our Corrales PD and code enforcement suspend all rules during those events and people park everywhere and it's okay. It's really meant to, and everyone will understand it's meant to deter what happened along Meadowlark. With Bell's Deli, they were very popular at first and people were parking up and down the street. And also Sandia Bar and some of the issues that they had on, I guess, East Ella with Hannah and Nate's, and there are signs there now. It's fixed the problem. So Corrales PD would use discretion on during Harvest Festival or parked all over Creation. And it's okay.
In any event, I think the gist of these recommendations is if these words or something like them are not in the ordinances, the enforcement can't happen. So what we're recommending, or we could recommend, is that the council adopt very specific language in the ordinances that enable enforcement. And we know, or we would encourage the council to, vet these particular words very carefully and engage the services of council and worry about the details, but I'd like to get this off our plate. Does that work?
Yep.
You want to make a motion? No, he doesn't. We need a motion.
I've been the only batter tonight.
Huh? Yeah, you've waited a lot of work.
And so what are we proposing?
Right.
That we adopt?
Commissioner Roque, you've closed your book and it's time to make a motion.
What he said. I'll just ask one more question. Has Chief Manjacopra agreed that he's going to be writing these tickets and that's additional duty that they'll have?
What he told me is that now they have no ability to enforce parking and what they have to do is go into a place of business and say, hey, who owns the red truck? Please move it. And this, he's chosen not to be here, but he does know about it and he can go in front of council if he wishes and say, oh, heck no, I don't want to have my officers writing parking tickets. But yes, we've had those conversations. They can't enforce it now.
Yeah, and that's what I figured. But I'm glad that you had that conversation with him.
I did. And, you know, he likes to throw it back on code enforcement, but I would like to make it fair so that all of us would, both code enforcement and the police would have the ability to do this. Whether they choose to do it or not is, you know, up to them.
Make a motion to support the language of adopting the enforcement in the packet that we have in front of us. Now, if we need to wordsmith that, I'm happy to. But let's get this going.
Motion has been made.
What are the words we decided?
I'm not sure. That's why I'm not making the motion.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, I'll second that.
And seconded
What was the motion? I couldn't hear. Sorry.
as loud as you can do it.
I make a motion to support the language that allows for enforcement of no parking zones in Corrales.
And Chairman, I think that's an excellent motion because it leaves it up to the council still and yet to consider what those no parking zones might be. And this one blanket thing about no parking in residential streets, I still, you know, for commercial purposes, whatever, I still have some misgivings about that.
Right.
And, you know, I went to somebody's commemorative thing at the Sandia Bar recently, and they were offering valet parking, but the cars are still on the street. So, and they're just taking people down to the local or taking the cars down to the local parking lot there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the village owned parking lot.
So I think we're getting interest in encouraging the council to look at this language and consider probably softening the residential, but I think what we're saying is we'd like the council to consider specific language in the ordinances that enable enforcement. And here are some suggestions.
Can I make one more comment and then I promise to be quiet?
Yeah.
So section 1837, that has to do with our commercial zone. And then section J within there, placement of parking. So we're talking about the commercial zone. It now says parking areas shall be placed off the street to the rear and sides of buildings whenever possible. So sometimes parking just has to be in front of a building because that's what it is, but that's all it says. And this just reiterates that commercial business parking is not allowed along residential streets. And and then it says where no parking signs are present, violators may be ticketed or towed. So council can wordsmith, but it reiterates the fact that if you have a commercial business here, you're really supposed to have enough parking. And that limits the scale of some of the businesses we have, but that's what we do here in Corrales. We have smaller scaled businesses. So if you have a big lot, like Casa Vieja has a huge lot, then you can do more. And if you have a tiny lot, like the tattoo parlor, I think he has 4 spots. Well, that's all he needs. So I guess my point is we already say village-wide, both for residential uses and commercial uses, that you're really supposed to contain your parking on the lot anyway.
Right, but what we're trying to do is enable the council to provide enforcement capacity for both the police department and the enforcement officer, right? So we have some suggestions, but we want them to think it through.
Thank you.
Is
And
that
part-
the gist of your,
Yes, thank
what
you
is
for
it called?
summarizing.
The
Thank-
motion.
Thank you for summarizing and wordsmithing that for me.
Is that okay?
Sure,
Okay, who seconded it?
I did.
There you go. Please,
Okay,
Call
for
it.
the vote, Mick Harper,
Aye.
Mary Chappelle, Bob Pearls, Michael Roque,
I,
Jody Harrington,
Aye.
and Jerry Sturmer.
aye. Thank you. Oof, good.
Move to adjourn.
So we did two things, a motion to adjourn. We've read the administrator's report. We appreciate the hard work and we call the meeting over.
let's give Bob Pearls a clapping
There you go.
hand for his service this last year.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I was
well-
here a year and I learned a lot and enjoyed working together. Thank you.